.32 and 24 gauge is pretty expensive, and the ammo is not always in stock. Recently, Federal has started importing from Italy both gauges. The price is, I think it's between $23 and $25 a box, and you have to order it off the internet. Recently, there has been people who have found it in store, but I imagine it's next to impossible to find. Traditionally, the hulls have always been roll crimped. I have come up with a way to fold crimp both gauges. This video will focus on 32 gauge. The only tools you'll need to do this is a mech 28 gauge crimp starter and a 20 to 32 gauge chamber adapter, which is available from Little Skeeters. They also have 16 to 24 gauge. You'll need that to crimp the 24 gauge shells. And you'll have to have a second mech 28 gauge crimp starter to convert it to 24 gauge. I'll cover that in that video. What you'll want to do this is just insert your fired hull into the chamber adapter. This will act as both your resizing die and the final crimp tube. For the press, I use the Lee Load-All 2. You'll need this is the 12 gauge one on here right now. You'll need the 16 or 20 gauge version. The 12 gauge, the primer seating punch right here with the tape on it is too large to fit inside the 32 gauge chamber adapter, but the 16 and 20, it fits perfectly down it. To get started, just set your shell in the adapter right here, the depriming station. This will both resize and deprime it. I know the only tools I said you would need would be the crimp starter and the chamber adapter, but you'll need a essentially punch and a mallet. You can use anything as a punch and a mallet. What you want to do is put the punch into the chamber adapter and knock out the shell. That is a Lee resizing die. That should come with your press. Once you have a new primer installed, you can move on to the next step, which would be your powder, wad, and shot. Now for the wad, you'll have to again modify it to accommodate for the fold crimp over the roll crimp. I will show you how to do that. This is the SG32 wad from Ballistic Products. Now this is something Ballistic Products actually says to do in the small bore manual to accommodate shot charges larger than 3/8 of an ounce. You can fit half-ounce loads and roll crimp those just fine though. What you'll want to do is take out part of the middle section of the wad, basically those legs. What you want to do is cut the bottom set off and then use the rest of the wad as normal. And this is what that looks like when you're done. If you want to load heavier loads, the 5/8 ounce load, you need to remove both sets of legs. After you have your powder, wad, and shot in, you'll want to use an overshot card just to make the crimps look neater after the final crimp. This is just compressed paper towel. I have 32 gauge hard wads, they're fiber. This is just easier. To pre-crimp these, you can take the 28 gauge crimp starter and push down by hand, which works great. Or you can use the press. This is still the 12 gauge one, I haven't converted it to 16 yet. The crimp starter actually fits the pre-crimp tube on those perfectly. If you're using the press, you'll need to hold it in place because it doesn't fit that tight on there, and just push it down and get the best crimp you can. There's one last thing to do before the final crimp, and that is just to push the crimp in on a flat surface. It'll pop back open a little bit, but that really helps with the final crimp. Okay, now I have it converted to the 16 gauge press. Just reinsert your hull back into the chamber adapter and the primer door. Just set it up the way I have it right here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Pull the press down. I guess you'll have to remove the door to get this out of here. And there's the crimped hull. You will still need the roll crimper. I will show you why in just a second. Now these don't always come out looking perfect, but for the most part they do. Now if you notice the arm that fell off my press, those little retainer clips that hold the arms on, both of those actually broke on me because I have used, see there it goes, I have used this press so much that they, I guess, wore out. I have more on the way. Now for the roll crimper, that's just to round the case mouth out. Sometimes, not always, when you final crimp these, it'll have a slight flare on the mouth. The roll crimper fixes that. The reason I went through the trouble of coming up with a way to fold crimp these is because roll crimps, you may get 2, rarely 3 reloads out of these holes, and I really like to shoot that gun. It's a Stevens. I have a video of it on my channel if you want to check that out. Fold crimping just lends itself so much better to reloading your hulls. These are $20 for 100 new primed hulls from Shaddai, available at Ballistic Products. Most of these look really good. That one right there, and not so much. But it'll shoot just fine. I still roll crimp my slugs. For buckshot, I fold crimp those. Number 4 buck works great. The one on the left is a Hornady Great Plains bullet. The center is a, I can't remember what brand it is, but it's a 50 cal Sabo muzzleloader bullet. I had to chop the end of it off in order to get it to roll crimp. And this one is a homemade slug I cast out of a, 11mm socket. Socket slugs are cool. Well guys, I appreciate you watching the video. For those of you that actually own a 32 gauge, I hope this helps. Look at those massive 10 gauge holes.